What plot twist made you shout bulls? I'll do a book, since most people are doing TV series and movies. Dragon Tears by Dean Koontz. This detective has to track a serial killer with a mysterious MO. His victims are usually found in locked rooms. Clues are sometimes contradictory. How will they track this guy down? What's his secret? Turns out, for no good reason, he's literally omnipotent, able to instantly control all time and space, however he wants, whenever he wants, with nothing more than a thought. Aha, that explains literally anything and everything ever. But how do you stop a guy like that? Shoot him in the head when he's at home making a sandwich. Case closed. House of Cards. Intrepid reporter finds out about Tor, gets on the dark web and immediately starts openly asking for all the dirt on the new vice president, apparently to enlist the support of hacktivists. Fortunately, the FBI finds out before everything gets even more silly. Somewhat more obscure, Elfin lied. The researcher is also a decolonius. He was just wearing a mask that covered his horns and never used his powers for some reason. I spent a few minutes laughing at the screen. Last episode season of Sherlock. That was like watching the frontrunner of a race stumbling over his own feet and falling flat on his face in the last 10 meters before finish line. The entire last season is freaking ridiculous. Yeah, I get that they are really freaking smart, but that doesn't give you godlike hacking their literal brains. Each episode of Total Drama Island when they kick anyone but Heather. That B had it coming since the first episode and I'm still salty about it. I love that a cartoon parody of those shows legit did all the classic tropes and switcheroos that real drama shows do. Keeping the most hated character around is amazing for views. Apparently Lomfeo underrated borderline Adult Swim show. Great for teens. I'm not sure this counts, but near the end of season 3 of Scrubs and JD and Elliot finally get together. Again. Immediately JD is like, oh my god, I don't love her. That crap pee me the frick off. Again, I don't think this is the right thread, but I've wanted to vent about that for a long time. I thought it was frustrating as well, but that's kinda the point of JD. He was a likable character, but had so many flaws, including a lack of self-esteem and a tendency to self-destruct. As a doctor he was competent and aimed to be better every single day, but as a person he was a mess. Glenn surviving being trapped by a horde of walkers while on top, then under a dumpster with some other guy in The Walking Dead. Total bait and switch. And it was finally the thing that made me give up hope on the show, after a lot of other reasons to before it. I was so happy to see him survive. I didn't get mad at that cheap bait and switch until later. Now, it just annoys me. You used the perfect term to describe it. A Quiet Place. Creatures destroy the world because they can hear every single movement and are vicious killers. Yet somehow the world government or military never freaking thought about using high-pitched audio to fight against creatures that have super hearing. Instead it's discovered by a kid. Ooh, okay. Of course, it may be that the military is going town to town and wiping those things out, but these few people out in the middle of nowhere just haven't been reached yet. The really stupid thing is that they didn't set up tents or something right near the waterfall, or even behind the waterfall, where the noises they make would be drowned out. The true identity of the origami killer in Heavy Rain. Really? Nothing at all he did in front of the player could make me reconcile that. It was just a random twist because the writer likes twists like that. It doesn't actually make sense. I wish I could look at my son's killer right in his eye. Proceeds to show the killer's eyes. That's brilliant foreshadowing. But yay, the reveal was lame and they never explained his blackouts. Also screw that kamikaze trophy. I read all the comments up to this point just to make sure no one else already posted it, but the ending to the new Fantasy Island movie is balls. That ending isn't foreshadowed freaking anywhere. Got Arya killing the Night King. No, not because he was killed in the army disintegrated. That made perfect sense. Something of a rarity in S8. What miffed me is how Arya reached Godswood from the fortress of Winterfell in a matter of seconds. I would have chalked it off to editing, but are you seriously telling me she ran like the wind and outpaces the already far advancing White Army? Also, how the frick did she cross the army to kill the Night King? How inept was the army? Where in the seven hells did she flew in from? The Hound tossed her like Gimli. As a retired US Navy sailor, Just about every moment of Under Siege was a balls moment, but what really got me was watching the chow line. Particularly the boombox playing and just the way everybody was acting. Total balls. I got so pee, I stopped watching as soon as Erica and her boobies popped out of the cake. BBC Netflix Dracula episode 3, amongst other things wrong with it, ! The lawyer showing up and freeing him after minutes of imprisonment, because he understood tablets, guessed the Wi-Fi password and knew how to contact his lawyer firm despite having just woken up from a centuries long sleep. And the very end was kind of BS too. Don't know if it was mentioned already, but Drogon melting the Iron Throne instead of killing Jon. Even Jon thought he would die. Also, Grey Worm and the entire army of Dothraki Unsullied letting Jon live. They didn't have the balls to kill him. The movie In Time with Justin Timberlake and Amanda Seyfried. The part in the movie where Amanda's father hires an extra 30 bodyguards and one of them turns out to be the guy who needs protection from who he has personally interacted with and has a nationwide wanted notice with picture on every video screen. The whole urine shooting down a dragon scene in GOT season 8. Now it's no secret that entire season is a dumpster fire, but that scene in particular got me good. I actually felt patronized they deemed this scene worthy to be viewed by a real audience. That we must all be so dumb and clueless to not notice the very many things wrong with this scene and just roll with what I can only imagine must have been written by a 12-year-old cousin of one of the writers. That does seem to be the level of care put into the season as a whole. It really just boils down to Dany just forgot about that whole fleet. Then with 2 airborne Super Saiyan dragons gets ambushed by a bunch of freaking boats that proceed to 420 noscope the living crap out of one dragon, while the other goes for a suicidal nosedive during which 1000 shots can't manage to hit a target moving towards them in a goddamn straight line. Whoever allowed this to survive the drafting stage should be hung upside down from a tree and smacked with some thick, good scripts until they learn to write a decent scene through osmosis. Watching Pearl Harbor. Ben Affleck's character dies early in the movie. Right when it happened I said I swear to God if he comes back from the dead I am walking out. Riverdale is like the festival of dumb plot twists. Also Veronica Mars season 4. Also a lot of teen dramas about mysteries, crime, heroic fantasy, sci-fi these days. Thank you Netflix. Lucifer and Chloe on season 4 finally declaring their love to each other only for him to decide that he needs to go back to ruling heck permanently. I got so dang frustrated. Never has a show more squandered good actors and a good concept. The whole thing moves at a molasses pace and the underlying setup really never pays off. I kept waiting for the fact that the supernatural exists to have anything to do with a case, and even when it's the cinnamon, it really doesn't. Lelouch accidentally using Jisoo Euphemia and making her commit genocide. There are so many other examples he could have used. I could tell you to jump on one foot while singing Old MacDonald. I could tell you to go down to Pizza Hut and get as many pizzas as you can buy. I could tell you to cut your hair off into a bob cut. Yeah, I get he was stating that he could make her do something that she would never do. Something she found disgusting and horrible. But that slip up was not really within Lelouch's character. The finale for the first season of The Good Place. Lots of people said they weren't that surprised, but when I saw it I literally stood up going no freaking way. I honestly didn't consider that thought when I watched it, and I was surprised. The recent episode of Grey's Anatomy revealing why Alex left. I have watched every episode more times than I am proud to admit, and that was the most balls way to end his story. Hans turning into the villain in Frozen. It doesn't even make sense why he'd help Elsa and Anna the whole movie and then just boom all of a sudden wanna kill Elsa. So dumb. It was actually super obvious to me. His sideburns gave it away. Dexter the finale. What a load of crap. Dexter would have never abandoned his son and the only person he could be himself with. He is a survivor, an expert in blending in and keeping his mouth shut. Faking his death and starting a new life was a pointless gesture. Completely out of character. Surprised to not have seen this yet, but Bird Box. I guess it wasn't so much that there was a bad plot twist, but more so that the plot was never explained. On the flip side, Arrival is one of my favorite plot twists of all time. I love that movie. Sean ending up marrying Maya's mom in Girl Meets World instead of Angela like it should have been. Ooh, that gets to me to this day. I'll say like the last half of the book Mockingjay. After she shoots what's her name instead of Snow, she just blacks out and we miss how everything is settled in the power vacuum of the capital. Agreed. It took me more than 5 rereads to understand everything that happened during the assault on the capital. High tension haute tension Switchblade Romance. If you've seen it you know what I'm talking about. But if you haven't and you don't mind the spoiler, let me spoil how utterly stupid it is. The non-spoiler part of the story. Girl goes with her best friend to visit the friend's parents in the French countryside. But there's a serial killer on the loose. You have shots of him in his van getting a blowjob from a chick. Then he rolls his window down and chucks the decapitated head out the window. And he picks the friend's parents' place to target. He kills the parents and kidnaps the friend. He almost catches the main character actually, leading to the main character to follow the killer in hopes of rescuing her friend. It's a very tense and well done movie, until you find out the killer is just the main character all along. Yes, somehow while she and her friend are driving to the friend's parents' house, she was also a dude giving himself a BJ with a decapitated head. Also when she, as the killer, was kidnapping her friend, she, as the friend, was driving a car following them. It makes no sense, and if they didn't have this twist, it'd be one of the best horror thrillers I've seen. The twist was unnecessary and stupid. Not a plot twist, but the way they explained Gypsy Danger's immunity to Emping Pacific Rim. The Gypsy is analog, nuclear. You mean you have not one transistor in your freaking giant robot that mind melds people together? Not freaking one, not even one freaking transistor. Even for a movie in which no other plot point other than giant freaking robots kicking the crap out of giant freaking monsters was expected. I guess I should have expected giant freaking robots, one of which whom has no transistors, kicking the crap out of giant freaking monsters and winning because one doesn't have any digital computer hardware. How about ask any one of the interns that exhibits any amount of intelligence to Google how to shield equipment from a freaking EMP. Frick your lazy butt writing. The BBC Netflix miniseries Dracula, when he turns up at the beach in the modern day and everything gets worse from there. Like, they let him actually hire a lawyer. Jotaro also being able to stop time. I mean, it wasn't bad, but I think there could have been more done besides hey Jude can stop time too. When the girl climbs up and falls over the highway barrier fence in the village, a guy in the front row in the theater exclaims, "Are you freaking kidding me?" and gets up and walks out LMFAO. Sitting in the same room as my wife when she is watching Grey's Anatomy. I've never seen a more badly written piece of balls ever. Who is freaking who now? Which marriage that started 5 seconds ago is about to end because he obviously doesn't respect the way she styles her hair. The monster. Emilia out of the blue suddenly thinks Owen is the father of her baby and his now wife, rather than be understanding as that was before they got together. Decides to frick the guy he hates, and all the while I keep asking my wife, why won't anyone turn down the goddamn music? Surely they can't even hear each other talking? Which BTW is the biggest balls plot twist of all, that so many artists would allow their songs get raped over and over again as they let their songs get covered by the Cottonelle Bears. Doctor Who spoiler here. Exclamation point in Doctor Who the latest episode. The Doctor is the start of all Time Lords, aka the Timeless Child. It disregards a lot of the story made from previous writers. Andromeda Strain by Michael Crichton. The book is amazing, then the ending is utter garbage. There's this deadly virus that they keep contained throughout the book, and at the climax of the story they find out that the virus multiplies with heat, and a nuke is about to go off to destroy the facility due to a breach. The virus multiplies, gets into the atmosphere, then just mutates into a harmless version and drifts off into space. Only book that I've ever thrown across the room in anger. Since it hasn't been mentioned, season 7 of the show 24, Tony Armada, who was presumably dead at the end of season 5, returns. He and Jack team up to take down some terrorists, until it's revealed that Tony is the bad guy all along. That was the exact moment I said frick it, and stopped watching. Armageddon. I was a teen so I didn't think much at the time other than Liv Tyler was hot AF. Not much later I decided to go work on drilling rigs to make some money before going to university. Ended up loving drilling and stuck with making oil. I'm a Canadian and have made a big reputation for myself 17 years later. Been busy through these hard times. Thought I would add that because of recent developments. Anyway, anything you see on that show drilling related is bulls. From all the opening scenes offshore to the asteroid. No one has drilled on an asteroid, but holy crap, that would never work. People don't zipline out of derricks. If you hit gas, the hull won't just throw singles out. Also, what are they clearing the cuttings with? Frick Armageddon. If there's an asteroid, we are fricked if this is the plan they come up with. Liv, if you're reading this, I'm married now but still think you're hot. Also, the implication that it's easier to train rig workers as astronauts than vice versa is ridiculous. The jump to hyperspeed which destroyed the First Order fleet, now known as the Holder maneuver. There's been a lot of overwhelming odds in Star Wars which apparently could have been overcome by a single ship jumping to hyperspeed towards the baddies. Bullcrap. Mon-El being married to some futuristic chick. For context, in the show Supergirl, Mon-El was Kara's love interest. She had to send him away in season 2 and he came back in season 3, married to said chick. Rick Riordan wrote in Blood of Olympus, 2014, that Preta Reyna Ramirez was warned by goddess Venus she wouldn't find love where she thought or when she wanted, and that no demigod would cure her heart. Later in the book The Tyrant's Tomb, 2019, Preta Reyna Ramirez's love curse was cured by her laughing at herself and at Apollo when he declared his crush on her. Later she decided to join the Huntress of Artemis, but told Apollo she didn't really wanted to join forever. What makes me think she kinda lied to Artemis by making an oath of chastity she isn't planning on going through and using the immortality the hunt provides. The way Reyna friend-zoned Apollo was really rude and it just came off as bitchy and entitled. Needless to say, I'm calling bulls on that. Bring on the downvotes, but JK. Rowling suddenly declaring Dumbledore was actually gay the whole time. Being relatively liberal, homosexuality isn't something that irritates me in the slightest, and so on and so forth. It just seemed out of nowhere. Dumbledore's sex life was never something that was really alluded to in the books at all. Seemed like a cry for attention or something. The Battle of Winterfell, where Arya killed the Night King with a Valyrian steel dagger. What kind of idiot general would go into an active combat zone, knowing he is the key to holding his whole army together, with no one to take command if he falls in battle? He knew of the existence of Valyrian steel. For frick's sake. Jon Snow killed one of his lieutenants with a Valyrian steel blade and Jon Snow was at the battle. It would be like the president going to Afghanistan and picking up a rifle and fighting in hand-to-hand combat. Fanboys, I want to hear you scream. Basically all the season 8 battle scenes were trash strategically. Please charge you cav into the enemy center, while leaving your siege vulnerable and infantry trapped outside their own defensive barricades so they bottleneck to retreat. Being John Malkovich, when Cameron Diaz and Catherine Keener's characters confess their love for each other. Odd since the entire plot was based on an incredibly fantastic plot device. I had no problem with all that, but when that scene happened I was like nah, totally unbelievable. The series end of BSG. I think that they should have walked away when the writers' strike happened. Everything after they resumed felt awkward and tacked on. The final battle was good and I will always appreciate the work of Bear McCreary. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.